Well, I told you so. I hate to say it, but I did. I told you that Stellantis would get a break on tariffs if they agreed to move their production here. With the elections that just went down in Canada, with the Liberal Party winning there, and we're not going to get into the news aspect of that here. I do that over on my news channel, the News with TK. But with the Liberal Party winning in Canada, they're not really going to budge or try to work with the Trump administration. Trump is going to move or have Stellantis move that production back to the United States, the Charger and the minivan. He's also going to give them a break, as he said, and I'll roll the clip for you here in a few minutes. He's going to give them a break on tariffs for a set amount of time to move the parts and the assembly here to the United States. It's a negotiation tool. They're still going to pay a tariff, but they're not going to pay 25%. They're going to pay a little less, and in some cases could even get a waiver if they're showing production that, hey, we're building another plant here. Hey, we're doing this to move that production here. So the article that we talked about yesterday, which made absolutely no friggin' sense to me, from Automotive News, wrong, where they said the 1500 Ram was moving to Mexico. I didn't see that. So Warren, where the president is speaking today, by the way, in one of the assembly plants that's been more hit or slowed down than anything else in the Detroit area. There are a ton of Warren assembly workers in the crowd there today. Now, the president did make some other news, which I thought was interesting, talking about building cars from China here. I think that also goes to other stuff that's been going on with Stellantis. And I know a lot of you guys are like, no way. How does he get this information months in advance? Because I get it from the very top, guys. Is a BYD investment or Chery investment into Chrysler a bad thing? I don't know. Let me be honest with you. I don't know. If it's only going to be for like EVs or something, maybe the technology can help. I don't see China being able to dump cheap cars here in the US because they'd have to build them here with parts made here. They couldn't bring them in from China. They'd pay tariffs on them. But the president did just open the door, in his own words. And I think it's, because he was just talking about tariffs, and we know he's talking about Stellantis. He gave them a pass. He's giving them a set amount of time to move that production from Mexico, from Canada, and bring it back into the United States. And the same thing with parts. And it's not going to be something that happens overnight. That's why there are tariffs. The longer it takes them to get it in, the tariffs go up, and they can exceed 25%. But I believe Stellantis took that deal. I think John Elkann took that deal because it saves them a little money right now making that move. So, let's say the tariff is 10% right now, but a certain amount of parts are part of the USMCA, so they won't be tariffed, and maybe the total number is like 6% or 7% on a truck coming out of Saltillo, right? That's going to happen for the next 8 to 12 months while they retool somewhere to move that production here to the United States. So this is absolutely huge news. And the auto workers for Trump were there today in Warren, in mass. But without further ado, I'm going to roll that clip of everything that the president said on the automotive side, and then we'll come back and discuss.
To keep my promise to the great state of Michigan, I terminated Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate where you were mandated to buy an electric vehicle. You were mandated within just a few years to buy an electric vehicle. How about that? And you know what? They're great, but not everybody wants them. You got to be able to buy a hybrid, a gasoline-powered car, You can buy lots of different cars, but you can't be mandated to do anything. And I've already proudly imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles. Any foreign car, like they do, Tom. This is going to create more jobs in this state and this country. And to help these automakers bring their factories home as rapidly as possible, I've just signed an executive order to give partial tariff rebates to any company that assembles its cars right here in the U.S. In other words, if they can't make it in time because they have to do it here, otherwise they haven't, I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right? They took in parts from all over the world. I don't want that. I want them to make their parts here. But I gave them a little bit of time. It's 15% and then 10% of the parts, so it's not so bad. Somebody would say, oh, well, that's a change in parts. It's not. It's called a little flexibility. The guys were crying. They love it. Everything's good. But just in case we can't get everything in time, we gave them a little bit. So it's 15% of the parts, and then it's 10% of the parts. We give them a little time before we slaughter them if they don't do this. Right. They're going to make so much money. They're going to have so many jobs. No, but jobs are way up. Jobs are way up. We're pleased to be joined tonight by Brian Panebecker. Do you know who that is? Of the Auto Workers for Trump. And Brian is a union guy, loves the unions, loves everything, but he knew that Trump was right. Brian, come up here, Brian. I got to see Brian. Look at the arms in this guy. Look at the arms. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be here on your 100th day in office of your second term. And I just want to remind you of something I told you at one of your last rallies before the election. I've got it on video. I've watched it dozens of times at home. After I was able to speak, I turned to you and I said, Mr. President, Macomb County is going to win Michigan for you. And that's exactly what happened. We had a margin of victory of 70,000 votes in this county alone. Thank you, Macomb County. You know, I met President Trump 8 years ago in Novi, and we had never met before, and as I was stepping towards him backstage to get my picture taken, I knew I only had 10, 15 seconds to say something to him before we got our pictures. Fortunately, my son was standing behind me, so I've got a witness to this. And I said, Mr. Trump, we've got the keys to the White House waiting for you in Macomb County. And he kind of chuckled. He said, oh, yeah, how's that? And I said, well, Macomb County is the home of the Reagan Democrats. If you come to Macomb County and you ask for their support and you get it, you might win Macomb County big enough to carry the whole state of Michigan. And that's exactly what he did. So I want to say thank you to the auto workers, everybody who works in the automotive field, the suppliers, every one of you, the truck drivers. Thank you so much for supporting the greatest president in our lifetimes. Now, I've got a little business announcement I want to make. I hope the president doesn't mind, but when I was backstage with him earlier and got my picture taken, I said, Mr. President, I've got a deal that you can't refuse. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, I'm writing a book, and it's going to be about my political journey. I've been involved in some things here in Michigan, conservative causes like right to work and the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative. And I said, you have a publishing company, Winning Team Publishing. It's run by Don Jr. and his partner. I said, I'll agree to use your publishing company if you agree to write the foreword to my book. He stuck out his hand and said, I'll do it. That's how you negotiate with the best negotiator in the world. So listen, I got one last thing to say. all of us have a job to do. Number one, we have to win the 2026 elections. It has to happen. Sri Thanadar, that lunatic Democrat from Detroit, is already threatening to impeach President Trump if they get the majority back. But luckily, right now, we've got good people in Congress like Congressman John James over here who are stopping that from happening. But listen up. So we got to get out, and we don't have any time to waste. We got to start talking to our friends, our neighbors, our family, our coworkers. The campaign for 2026 starts tomorrow. We've got to win that election. So the work is not over. The work has just begun. November 5th was not the end. It was the beginning of the golden age. And let's all tell President Trump how much we support what he's done the first 100 days in office. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's one other thing I wanted to say in front of all these thousands of people to President Trump. President Trump, I love you.
That's great. Thank you. Good man. He's a great guy. You know, he was with me from day one, 2015, before 2016. He was there from day one. He got it. He said, we're losing our car industry. That's what he really cared about. He just said, I've had so many friends who were laid off. It's horrible. They lay us off like it's nothing. And the business went to China, it went to Japan, went to all countries all over the world. They're laying us off, sir. And then he said, we can solve that. I told him, we can solve that so fast. He's one of the early people that got it, and we've solved it. We're going to be doing numbers that nobody's ever believed. We'll be the #1 in the world again. Nobody can believe it because we have been beaten up so badly by these countries that have rigged the whole thing. They fight like hell. They're smart. Their product is good, but our product's going to be a lot better. We're going to do something that nobody believes, and he saw it right at the beginning. So I appreciate it, Brian. And he was there at that. I love the guys from the beginning. I love those early guys. Those guys are right there. They were there from the beginning, too. No, you're going to see numbers, and you're already seeing them. Look, you know, we have many Hondas coming in, and they're coming in. We let them build their cars here. We don't want them to build them in Japan. We love Japan. We don't want them building them in Japan. We want them to build them here. We want China to build them in here. We want them all to build them right in here. That's what they've done to us for 40 years, and they've drained us. Now we're doing it to them at a better level than they ever dreamed possible. To further rebuild the industrial bedrock of our country, I've imposed 25% tariffs on foreign aluminum and steel. It's keeping our steel mills going.
So what does this mean? It means Stellantis has got a deal. It means John Elkann also knows now that the president's not playing, and he could bankrupt them if he wanted to. It means the president would probably not oppose Chinese investment into Stellantis. That's what it means from everything that we heard in this conversation today. And look, you can get in my comments and be like, no, it's not going to happen. Look, you heard what he said. His words off the teleprompter, which means, because in the other video, I already had people be like, oh, well, you know, he was just saying that off the cuff. No, it's prepared statement. So it tells me that there's been some negotiations. Remember, the president has said this multiple times, that he's been on the phone with the chairman of Stellantis multiple times, sometimes several times a week, while they're trying to figure out how to, you know, navigate this tariff situation. I think Elkann has probably, with their investment into Leap Motor, and like I said, you know, we talked about this before, we know BYD was trying to buy brands from Stellantis or invest. We broke that story however long ago that was, and they're going through all the facilities. And we know Chery was just here. We know Chery was at CTC a couple of months ago. They're not doing it for no reason. I could see a Chinese investment into Chrysler. Do you think it's suspicious to you that there's no other brands, no other products coming out of Chrysler right now? I mean, I know you guys have common sense, right? So a lot of this stuff in intelligence just so you know how this works, is it's literally about having common sense and being able to put pieces of the puzzle together. There's a reason why we don't have any products coming out of Chrysler. There's a reason why the Viper and the Cuda and all this other stuff is coming from Dodge and nobody's doing nothing for Chrysler. It's not just on Christine Fuel. It's on the fact that they're trying to figure out, and they've probably been waiting, and they were waiting because of the election to find out how are we going to be able to negotiate this with the president to allow China to invest in this company. Bingo. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I don't know how I really feel about China investing in. I also don't know how I feel about giving Stellantis a pass when they could have already had the 2500 at Shap at Sterling Heights, and they could have moved the 1500 to Warren. They could have done that already. So I'm kind of aggravated with John Elkann because you've literally had these 1,500 plus workers on indefinite layoff at Warren Assembly when they could be back at work already because you wanted to play games and thought maybe the president was just saying something. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.